So you will aware them. You will aware them to think about environment. And from the waste part of anything, you can do something that you can develop economically without depending on any other, we have the resource. I heard, more than 70% of the waste stuffs in Addis, it can be recycled. It means the waste is not a waste. I mean, who said it's a waste? Waste is money for me. We can get money.
Addis Ababa is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa and in sub-Saharan Africa. And it is the economic hub of the Horn of Africa. And if you consider the population between 3 and 4 million inhabitants right now, and the growth rate between 3 and 4%, that means you have to deal every year with around 100,000 people coming to the city. And those people need additional infrastructure to live. They need jobs, they need disposal structures, supply structures, and that creates one of the biggest problems of the city. In northern states, like in Europe, you can construct facility which costs a lot of money, and the costs will be covered by a fee system. If you transfer the problems or if you tackle the problems in a city like Addis Ababa, you have to rethink the financing of facilities. The idea of IGNIS is to see the waste management system as a resource system. Addis Ababa produces right now per day around 1,000 tons of waste. If we go into the composition of the waste, around 500 tons of it are organic materials. The Future Megacities program from the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research is dealing with climate-efficient systems in cities. That means in around 9 cities all over the world are running projects dealing with energy, dealing with transport, dealing with urban agriculture. IGNIS is dealing with waste management, trying to contribute with the reduction of emissions and environmental harm to the climate protection.
The IGNIS project as a whole is a very important project for Ethiopia because it is a program which is mixing research and action. So we have pilot projects on the side, which we learn, which we research to develop methodologies for replication, not only in Ethiopia, but maybe in other countries in Africa or maybe even outside of Africa. So the whole project is about learning and developing methodologies, what we have learned.
The idea of such a small composting facility in the center of the city is that the pre-collectors collecting the waste from the customers are able to have an additional income by producing the compost material. By doing it like this, we save the transport costs, for example, to a bigger facility on the border of the city, so it can be all can be done on site. We have one value chain from the collection and to the selling of the compost. This can be done by one group. And within the IGNIS project, we will train those groups for each and every step they have to do to valorize the whole chain.
But now we are collecting the wastes from each householders. Daily, we are take the weight of the compostable and the non-compostable things. Before, we are take these compostable things are not much. The non-compostable is high. But now in this time, the compostable thing is very high. It's reached 250 from 60 households.
It makes no sense if we go to the households to make awareness raising campaigns, etc., etc. The idea is really that the youth group is dealing with the customers, that means the household directly. So it is their job, they have to learn it.
And by giving some magazines, by distributing, we are doing a lot of awareness giving for each household. We are protect the environment. One of our objectives is to protect the environment and also to make the workers for unemployment groups. They are well experienced by this doing. They are voluntary, they are very happy. This is the compostable houses. We are bringing these composters to here.
Well, we start with low-tech and with simple systems. But as you see, a system has to grow, and a sustainable system will grow. So if we start with a very difficult solution, we have no chance to grow. But if we start with the basics, and the people learn by themselves, they understand everything, they not only the process but also the economics behind, they can grow with their business.
The waste of food, the grasses, the shelter of onions and other compostable things they are bringing the materials here, and they again sorting on these tables. Then maybe it's reached the non-organic, the final sorted here, maybe reach 50 or 60.
To run the composting site inside the city or inside the neighborhood is a challenge for the operators, because normally it is said that the composting facility is stinking, smelling, you have bad smells, you have maybe pests on site. But all this is a problem of how to operate the facility. If we do a manual composting, we can do it in a way that such things don't happen. But that means the operators, the youth group or the women's group, whoever is doing the job, has to understand the whole system, has to understand the process, and they have to operate. The biogas project is located at the dormitory and canteen of the AIT, the Institute of Technology in Addis Ababa.
This biogas plant was built with the support of the university. So it's here as a pilot project to find out if it's possible to build a plant like this here in Ethiopia, if it's possible to run and maintain it. The aim is to use both kitchen waste, which means food leftovers, which is mostly injera or bread, and kitchen waste, potato peels, onions, things like this, as well as wastewater.
The material produced in the kitchen, the wastes, are more suitable for an anaerobic treatment because of the higher water content. It is not as suitable as for composting, for example.
We try to run this whole plant in a circle, which means we are taking the waste from the kitchen, turning it into gas, and the gas is then delivered into the kitchen so that they can use it for cooking or hot water production. Before, they used to heat up water in a very small house. They used eucalyptus wood, which is not very good in a country like Ethiopia where you have a big deforestation. And so now they can use the gas, which is more suitable. It's not, you don't have to carry any heavy loads. And the woman, they can just turn on the button and the gas is delivered. We have the waste coming from the kitchen and it's put into a reception tank. There the waste is collected. And we have two pumps. One pump is there for granulation and homogenization of the waste. And then we have a feeding pump that feeds the substrate into the fermenter. Here to the Ethiopian colleagues, I always say a biogas plant is like a cow. if a cow can chew it or if a cow can digest it, it's also good for the biogas plant because it's an organic process that takes place. And so if you have stones or bones, they can't be crushed by the pump, as well as the cow can't chew it with their teeth. We're also producing sludge, which means the remnants of the waste. And this sludge, it's collected in a sludge tank or effluent tank, whatever you want to call it. And this sludge we use to, it's a good fertilizer. So since we're working in the IGNIS project, we're using this sludge for the jatropha plants, and it's a fertilizer for the erosion slopes. My fear is that the people here are not trained well enough to run and operate the plant, and even, maintenance. It's a very important issue, and my biggest fear is that they're just not able to maintain the plant. So if something breaks, the whole plant has to be shut down. Because if the feeding pump doesn't work, it doesn't matter if everything else is okay, you can't put the substrate into the fermenter, and so then, it just stops. That's my biggest fear.
It is written that the jatropha is growing until, I think, 1,500 meters altitude. Now in Addis we have the situation that the mountain area is going up to 3,000 meters. And right now we are producing seedlings in Addis at an altitude of 2,300, 500 meters, and we will grow them in our slopes. Within the project, we had done a site selection for suitable slopes, considering inclination, considering sunshine, and we identified around 20 slopes, which are for the beginning interesting for us, and we will choose one of them for a broader testing.
The first objective of this project is just to rehabilitate degraded areas of Addis. There are many degraded areas throughout Addis Ababa. So this plant, this jatropha plant, has got different property to rehabilitate the soil and protect the erosion. The jatropha resists dry conditions, like without water it can stay longer than other plants. It's special behavior, and as well it helps the soil through addition of organic matter content because it's deciduous.
IGNIS is dealing with systems. The idea behind this is to use organic material generated in the waste to bring it back to the origin. That means back to the agricultural area by compost or back to the slopes of Addis Ababa as a fertilizer, as a soil conditioner.
And besides of the positive effects for the soil, nutrition content, organic matter content, with the jatropha we also plan to have a second objective, and this is to create an alternative income for former fuel wood collector women.
We just employ them in the growing phase.
And so by selling the seeds of the jatropha or processing the seeds and selling the fuel directly on the market, or using the jatropha oil as a substitutional fuel in the households, that could bring an income to them which is completely legal and environmentally sustainable.
The jatropha cultivation against erosion is also the idea behind to reduce the reforestation costs for the city.
In the near future, we will see most degraded areas of Addis will be rehabilitated, and as well other plants being grown in association with jatropha. So we'll see better place of Addis in the future.
What we are doing within this project is we are analyzing the whole chain. What are the costs of the production of the charcoal, of the char, and what are the costs for briquetting? And if we have at the end a plus, then we can make a business out of it. When we get in touch with the group, with the women's group producing the charcoal briquettes out of the organic materials, They were busy in an area in the outskirts of Addis, producing with a kind of a carbonizer, and the problem they had were the emission. In fact, a lot of fumes, a lot of visible emissions. In the barrel itself, the process, the organic materials are burned in the beginning, and to avoid the gases, the afterburner is placed on top of the barrel. The afterburner is burning the pyrolysis gases generated during the process. And by burning those gases, we reduce the emissions. In Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, we have a market for charcoal. Therefore, it is interesting to use parts of the organic materials for the production of charcoal. And especially the lignite-containing materials within the waste are a good source of material for this process.
The starting material is the waste, which is left from the charcoal. They bought this charcoal, waste of the powdered charcoal. They will sort out the stone or a kind of plastic material to protect their grinding machines as well. If it is otherwise, if it is enter into the grinding process, it will damage their machines. As a result, they lose their income. And then grind it. Finally, with mix it with water. And then they will do a beehive charcoal and agglomerates.
Dust emissions during grinding procedures is the major occupational safety and health problems. We started to discuss potential solutions with the wise women to overcome these problems and to start by process or equipment re-engineering. So we developed a kind of a hood that that encloses the dust during the grinding procedure.
The current idea they prevent the dust emission is to make a kind of canvas.
It's a long process to really sustain new solutions, and for this purpose we integrate the pilot project partners in the developing work steps. So we have workshops, we are doing practical on-site research, we are doing practical on-site trial of solutions so that they can decide for themselves what is feasible.
At the example of Tesfy Paper Limited, we can see that good entrepreneurship can lead to job creation. I think at the moment he's employing 5 women and contributing to reduction of waste.
I engaged in paper making and recycling paper from waste materials for the last 6 to 7 years, and I'm very much happy that I'm involving in the reduction of poverty and contributing, a good idea in the environment. When I enter into the internet, I found it, the industry of paper making is so huge, very huge. Banana paper, pineapple paper, cotton paper, jute paper, bagasse paper, you can name it. It's a lot of papers that people are making in outside. It's very interesting. We make these papers for postcards, for album covers, for notebooks, memo pads, and we mix the banana fiber with the waste paper so that we can get this kind of paper. It's very strong, and we use this one for a paper bag. We soak it into the water, so the water penetrates into the papers, so the fibers will be, you know, disseminated, and then we bring it into the mixer. It's a kind of blender. It mixes and it crushes the fiber of the waste papers, and then after we got the pulp, it's called the repulping, and then we get the, you know, the pulp, and then we scoop it on the net and we let it to be dried on the sun. My plan for the future is not only to produce banana paper, but I'm planning to produce a cotton paper. From the waste part of the t-shirt, you can make papers. You know, our currency, it's made from cotton paper. Every currency, I believe it is made from cotton paper. It's called a king of paper, cotton paper. So there are a lot of waste cotton rugs in Addis. So I want to make those papers, but to produce a cotton paper, you need, you know, machines and machineries that, you know, to crush it, to get the pulp. I believe in the future I'm gonna have it. I will make a paper from that one, so that our production capacity will be large. Our products will be enormous, and we can reach, you know, many aspects of the business.
The idea of IGNIS is to grow the pilot projects, and the idea is also to include such ideas, such approaches with the pilot project, small-scale, decentralized system within the overall waste management organized by the city. That means the IGNIS approach should become an entry to the overall waste management system planned by the city. For this, IGNIS intends to establish a training and competence center where we have the possibility to train the people for the specific technologies, and to store and to file all the know-how which is generated within the project, within the pilot projects, within our discussion with the city, within the planning, within the simulation processes, so that it is not only valid for Addis, so it should be also transferable for the African context, for example. As you know, Addis Ababa is the capital of Africa, and the idea is to spread out the information.